z is equal to square root of z minus 1 over z plus 1.
Yeah, those are just
All right, and our goal is to find the derivative. And Erin, this was your question, right?
Yep.
Okay, so what was the very first thing that you did?
I got rid of the square root.
Okay, great. As soon as we see a square root, we should rewrite that as raised to the 1/2. So our function looks like f of z is equal to z minus 1 over z plus 1, whole fraction raised to the 1/2. In this case, z is our variable, so we're taking a derivative with respect to z. Okay? All right, so Erin, once you got rid of that, or once you got rid of the square root, write it as 1/2, what were your thoughts?
The chain rule?
Yeah, this is a really good choice. So thinking about this, the chain rule, the reason that, besides the fact that this is in section 2.5, which is the chain rule section, besides that reason, when I look at this function, I see stuff happening in the middle, but I also see that hug around the outside where I have the entire thing is raised to the 1/2. So I've got an inside and an outside function. So my outside function is stuff raised to the 1/2, so it's an x to the 1/2. And my inside function is z minus 1 over z plus 1. Okay, so I'm going to need my derivative of my outside function, and I'll use the power rule for that. So I've got 1/2 x to the negative 1/2. And the derivative for my inside function, oops, these are derivatives with respect to z, so it's d over dz. Oh, silly. Okay, that's an x right there, right? Yeah. So this is the derivative with respect to x. The one down here is d over dz, because we're taking a derivative with respect to z. Okay. Once again, I'm glad you guys are all here. Okay. So, questions on our derivative of our outside function. Derivative of our inside function, we have a fraction, so we're going to use the quotient rule. So our derivative would be low z plus 1, low d high. Now, derivative on the top here, derivative of z is 1, derivative of negative 1 is 0, so our derivative of our top is just 1. Low d high minus high, minus 1, d low, derivative of the z plus 1, just 1. Draw the line and square below. Z plus 1, quantity squared. Okay, so we've got our outside function, our inside function, and derivatives of each. So now we can go back to our original, and we can use our chain rule. So f prime of z, chain rule says derivative of the outside, keeping the inside the same, times the derivative of the inside. Derivative of the outside is 1/2. X, well, that's keeping the inside the same, so that will be z minus 1 over z plus 1 raised to the negative 1/2. Derivative of the outside, keeping the inside the same, times derivative of the inside, which looks like z plus 1 times 1 minus z minus 1 times 1 divided by z plus 1 squared. End of story. All right, are there any questions about that? Erin, does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's definitely the simplifying to try to get to the right answer that's more messing me up than finding the derivative.
Yeah, so that's where it's frustrating because focusing on the algebra, when we need the algebra, we'll do that, but for now I just want to focus on the derivative part. Okay, other questions about number 23? Does this simplify to 0? So are you thinking about this part here? So up on this top here I've got z plus 1, and then I have to distribute this negative sign to both terms, so it becomes minus z plus 1 on the top. So we still have two ones at the top. good, other questions? Okay, and so Andrew, last one was your question, right?
Yeah.
Number 31?
You got it.